forces of the sun, with gentle touch it means so much to bring our flames into this reality. We set each other free.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Eagle's Nest podcast. We gave up on doing a certain time of the day or year on Sundays, but we're going to be there every Sunday. We're going to be there Tuesdays. We're going to be there Wednesdays because, we sometimes we have to work around schedules, my own schedule, the guest schedule, and my goal is to deliver some great content. And that's just what we aim to do here tonight. We have a special guest that's going to join us here in just a moment. John Yost, he's a director producer of Alien Abduction's Answers, streaming now on Amazon. And we're going to bring him on in just a few moments. And we're going to play the trailer for that again. Debs was on here last week, and she appears in the movie. And she's the one that did the regression for John. And now we're going to get the story from John. We're going to find out about the incident that inspired this documentary, how the documentary came about. And, I know we're going to get into the consciousness aspect, just like we always do here on the Eagles Nest podcast. What else is there to talk about right now than an evolutionary shift of humanity that we're experiencing firsthand every day, every moment. We're getting closer and closer to, whatever's going to happen, man. There was a big incident in San Diego last night. Could be flares or could be some UFOs off the coast of San Diego. It was all over Twitter last night. I shared it on my Twitter, Facebooks. You can check it out. Check out some videos. But they say it was flares. Some people say that this was up there for a while. Who knows? I'm not trying to say what it was one way or the other. All I'm saying is it's worth checking out, looking into. And got some people in the chat room. Melissa's in here. Thanks for joining us, Melissa. Yeah, let's see what do we got coming up. Okay, Tuesday. So I got my son has surgery coming up on Thursday. So I'm not having any more shows until Sunday. Sunday I have Dr. Christopher Macklin coming in here. We're going to be talking about the Greys. We're going to be talking about alliances. We're going to be talking about presidential agreements with extraterrestrials, off-planet intelligence. And, we're just going to be talking about all that. I'm sure we're going to get into consciousness with him as well. Again, that's Dr. Christopher Macklin coming up July 3rd, coming up this Sunday. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. And then July 10th, I'm going to be in Golden, Colorado. I'm going to be at the Stardust Fest. So I'm speaking at 11 a.m. They're going to be selling tickets at the door. So again, that's Stardust Festival, Golden, Colorado. You can, I don't have any, I think there's maybe some links up on our website. If not, if Ella, if you can hear me, we need to get some links up for the Stardust Festival on the website for people. And yeah, July 10th, that's coming up. That's right around the corner. If you want to see me in person, if you got some of my books that need signing, come up there and see me. I'll be speaking live. Again, that's 11 a.m. at the Stardust Festival. I'll be the first speaker kicking off that day of speaking. There's a bunch of other events going on that day in Golden at the Stardust Fest. But I'll be speaking at 11. I think it's only an hour, so don't be late. Show up a little bit early if you want to see me in person. I'm going to be speaking on the evolutionary shift of humanity. And hopefully I'm going to be sharing some slides, sharing some pictures. And I'm not going to give away too much on it. But yeah, I'm going to be showing some slides of petroglyphs, pictures of different petroglyph sites and explaining them and their connection to the evolutionary shift that we're experiencing right now, and break it all down and give some pointers on how we can each individually move forward in this process, a little bit easier. So that's coming up July 10th. Be doing a talk 11 a.m. Stardust Festival, Golden, Colorado, on the evolution of humanity. Go check it out. Should have links up. I know there's some links up on my Facebook somewhere in the post. I'll refresh those after the show so people can find them. And yeah, I got a bunch of great guests coming up in July. I got Charles Pate. He runs. He's the founder and owner operator, co-founder and owner operator of a ketamine treatment facility in Florida. I think they're about to set up. I think they're about to start another location, and they're doing treatments totally above the board. And yeah, they have an amazing process they got going on down there. Can't wait to hear about that and how they've been helping people, release and um, release traumas and stresses through this ketamine treatment. And yeah, I can't wait to hear about that. And we got Micah Dank coming up. We got, man, there's so many amazing guests coming up. I'll keep you guys updated. But without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest in so we can get into this conversation, because I have a feeling that we are going to have to do a round two of this sometime very soon, because I don't think 2 hours is going to be enough for this conversation. So I'm going to take off this camera right here, remove that, give room for our guest, John Yost. Welcome to the Eagles Nest podcast.
Hello, Drew. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here, brother.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing, for helping, bring a part of a very large part of this phenomenon to the front of the discussion. And a lot of, I think that you've opened up the discussion. Your work has opened up the discussion around a lot of dinner tables where it wasn't being talked about before. And for that, that's commendable, brother, because that's creating waves. So
Well,
I just want to say thank you for that.
I'm very grateful, and I'm actually very hopeful that that's the case. This film was never made for what would be a normal reason. It actually was a catharsis for me to kind of overcome the trauma of my childhood experiences. But through making the film, I've gained some semblance of peace. And my hope is that by watching it, other folks who have had experiences who haven't really been able to deal with them can find some semblance of that peace as well.
Yeah, so the film we're talking about is Alien Abduction Answers, just to be clear, because you have your name attached to many other projects as well. So we just want to
Sure.
be clear. This is the Alien Abduction Answers that's streaming currently on Amazon Prime. I did watch it. You know, it's probably one of the top five films that I've seen on the subject, and probably the first one that's really starting to get into the consciousness aspect. And if anybody knows me, they know they know that's my passion, is really this part of the phenomenon. So how did this? What was your childhood like? And I know that you had experience very early on. That's what triggered and is the subject of this documentary. But what was childlike life other than this experience? Was
Sure.
good family, good.
Oh yeah. I grew up a normal kid. Mother and father very loving. Um, no poverty. Everybody worked. Everybody had, we did the whole, do the church every Sunday, that sort of thing. There was always food on the table. Had a big family and a lot of cousins. So nothing but a happy childhood up until the point that this particular event happened, and that happened in August of 1974. I was 7 years old, and
Okay, let's
yeah,
let's go right into that. What
sure.
what was the day like you know, what was the 24 hours like before the incident?
Sure,
You know,
sure.
was there any, looking back, was there any precursors that you may have missed?
You know, that's a really good question, and I've never really considered that, Drew. I'm gonna have to give that some thought. It was, well, it was, I mean, it was summer break, right? And I was a little boy in the 1970s, and so, life of a little boy then was, you're running around, you're chasing your friends, you're playing ball, you're jumping on swings, all this computer stuff and handheld gaming didn't exist. So I don't know, and I've never really explored that. But what I do know is this: I was exhausted that night, and I went right to bed, and I was awakened about, I want to say, about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to this hum, this kind of undulating hum, and disturbed me enough to sit up on the side of my bed. It was a hot evening, and my parents didn't have air conditioning, and the windows were open. So I could tell that the hum was around me, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I didn't know if it was outside, if it was inside, but I could tell it was around me, and it bothered me. And so I couldn't sleep, and I went to the bathroom, and did my normal stuff, and I was washing my hands, and I let the water run for a really long time, and I've never been able to figure out why it ran for such an extended period of time. But when I turned it off and I opened up the door, to my amazement, I was staring at someone standing in that doorway. To my 7-year-old eyes, it was a character that I had seen 100 times on television. It was a Japanese television character called Ultra Man. To my eyes, he was a silver guy with a little bit of red, and he had enormous eyes. And initially, I wasn't afraid at all because I had seen this guy, and he always fought the bad guys, and that was fine. But in the show, he was, a giant. But in my world, he was as tall as me. And so we got very close. And when I say
Amazing.
very close, I mean nose to nose. We were nose to nose. And then something happened. And I've used a couple examples in previous interviews, but let me say it this way. Have you been to the beach? So like when that tide comes in and it starts to pull the sand from underneath your feet and you feel yourself being sucked in. That's the way it felt. And I felt like I was losing control. And then, just like a drowning man, I started to flail my arms, And so I was laying hands on this entity. It was real. It was 3D. And there was a tremendous flash of light. And then there was this kaleidoscope of lights, like very, very fast all around me, almost like looking out a window of a bullet train. And then when I finally kind of came to my senses, something really remarkable happened. This entity's back was in the bathroom, and my back was in the hallway. And I was in mid struggle with this thing. And I say I get the feeling it was a he. He raised his right hand and he touched me on my left shoulder. And at that point, there was this energy and another flash of light. And it felt like, I'll use the beach analogy again. If you've ever been chest high in an ocean where that wave comes in and knocks you right to the ground, that's the way it felt. And I fell down these stairs, these hardwood stairs. Well, I landed with this tremendous sound and I'm screaming like a banshee. I'm a little boy and I'm hurt and I'm scared to death. And my parents had a first floor bedroom. And so they come running out, what the hell's going on? And I say, Ultraman is upstairs. My father probably hears, intruder. And he runs upstairs. And of course, he doesn't find anything. And he comes to the top of the stairs and he's disappointed and angry at me. And they take me into my room and they do what parents do. You open up the closet and you say, look, you see, there's nothing here. And you look under the bed, see, nothing here. And they put me to sleep. Well, the very next day, as I said, I was a 7-year-old boy in the 70s. So I went, after breakfast, I'm outside all day. And my mother called me in for dinner. And what she did, she took my T-shirt off and she was examining the bruises on me, from the fall. And she got to my left shoulder and she said, oh, honey, what is this? And I looked around sheepishly, and I said, Mom, I told you, Ultraman. And she looked very sad. She looked very sad. And she kissed me on my forehead, and she said, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So a couple of days later, my father is taking me to the doctor. And as we pull into the parking lot, he says to me, he was kind of a gruff guy. He was in the Navy, and he worked in the mills. And he said, listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear any of this, Ultraman bullshit. You keep that stuff to yourself. And so I said, sure, Dad, sure, Anyway, the doctor looked me over, and he, by now it's a couple of days later, so the bruises are starting to yellow. And then he gets to my shoulder, and he says, whoa, sport. He said, what's this? And I could see my dad in that corner, and he was giving me the eye, man. And back in the 70s, if your father gave you the eye, you don't mess with them, Today, kids are disrespectful all over the place. But back then, they meant business, and you didn't fool around. And so I just said, well, I was just playing. And so he looked at it a little bit, manipulated it. He said, okay, doesn't hurt, no. And he sent me on my way, gave me a lollipop, and that was the end of it until my father was taking me home that night from the doctor's appointment. And he said, as we pull into the driveway, he says, listen, I don't want to ever hear anything about this Ultraman shit again. I don't want you to scare your mother. I don't want you to scare your sisters. You keep that stuff to yourself. And so I obeyed him, and I lied about it my entire life. And people have asked me, well, eventually you became, a teenager and, college and a man. Why didn't you ever say anything? And there are two reasons. First of all, people who wear eyeglasses in the morning, right? They don't say, let me consider this. I'd like to see clearly, so I will take these framed eyeglasses and put them on my face. No, they don't do that. They just reach out like a reaction, and they put it on their face so they can see. So it just became a habit, and then also because it was such a habit, I was in a lot of sports when I was in high school and university, and, guys would say, hey, man, what the hell happened? And I would say things like, I was hit by lightning. A bear bit me. Somebody shot me. Whatever. Anything would have been better than to have to look at these people in their face and tell them that I had been abducted.
Yeah.
Anything would have been better. And I would have lived that way the rest of my life. But about 3.5 years ago, I was on a shoot. I guess it's important to explain. You had said something about I've been attached to many different projects. My business, some people are mechanics, some people are doctors. I make TV shows and commercials and films and stuff like this. And I've done it for over 25 years. We do stuff for Food Network and for, it's just my business. And so we were on a shoot in a place called Borrego Springs, California. And for people who don't know what that's like, it's very flat. It's very arid. And we were out on a shoot one evening, and we came back. We were downloading all the footage so we don't lose it. And we went out for a night cap by the pool in the house we were staying at. And we did a toast, and I saw this thing in the sky, and it was big as a car. And we were like with 15, 17 people. So I grabbed one guy. He says, oh, my God. And then everybody turns around and says, oh, my, and welcome, and hello, and all this other stuff. And I am just losing my mind because none of these people know anything about me and my story. And what happened then, Drew, was really, and I've really had time to think about this because something happened specifically then. This thing was about 30 feet away from me and 30 feet in the air. I could have hit it with a baseball. And it moved so fast, so quickly in a zigzag formation and then stopped right above my head. And it could have been there for a second. It could have been there for 20 minutes. But it seemed like a blink of the eye. And then it zipped away, about 20 feet away, stopped again, and then slowly drifted out into the desert. And everybody saw it. We watched it for about 1.5 minutes, almost 2 minutes. And everybody was like, wow, this is great. This is great. And meanwhile, I got that feeling that the wave had come in and the sand was being pulled out from underneath my feet again. And I couldn't breathe. And I started to shake inside. And so this was a problem because I was the line producer on this job. It means these guys are my, I'm in charge. And so I felt myself really starting to have a problem. And so I took a sip of my drink and I said to everybody, "Oh, you kids can stay up late. Haha, I'm the only adult here. I'm going to have to go fill out some paperwork." And I'm not proud of this, but I went back to my room and I barricaded that door and shoved all of my luggage there in my bed. And I sat in a corner and I cried like a baby. Everything that I had denied, that I had kept under kind of like a mental blister for 45 years, came pounding back. And the worst part about it was, it wasn't like I was dealing with it present day. I was a 7-year-old boy all over again. And I could feel that fear, that raw fear, and that feeling of being out of control. And it crushed me. It literally crushed me. And so what happened was, I'll say it very quickly, is doing a kind of job that I do, you have to be very anal retentive. There are a lot of boxes to check. You have to be in charge, always have your stuff. You talk about military alignment and squared away. That's me. That's the guy I am. But my guys who were working with me, who know me for a long time, saw me slipping, and that made them nervous. They were like, what's going on with John? And I got through that shoot and got home, being heavily lubricated by some very fine Irish whiskey. And, I got home, and but then the problem continued. My family noticed something was wrong, and I developed this paralyzing fear of open sky, and big water. I could not be out. And it got so bad, Drew, that I would get to the office and I would wait until everybody else got there and then walk in with somebody. Or I would wait till everybody else left and then run like hell to my car. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was difficult for me because I couldn't do my job anymore. I was having problems relating with my family. And so I got so pissed off, to be honest with you. I think other people would have seen a psychiatrist or something like that. I just said, look, I know what I know. It's never changed. I knew what happened. It's as clear as me looking at the screen and seeing you. I just kept it put away. I lied about it for so many years. It didn't touch me. Now it's affecting me. There's got to be other people with this type of experience. And so I started to read a bunch of stuff, and then I wanted to talk to people. And because I figured that, okay, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. There are other people who are really smart. Maybe they figured out ways to deal with this. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk to people who dealt with it. And so I found some beautiful people. And of course, they were attached to Debs Shakti. And what happened was, during these interviews, something became very, very evident to me. And it's so silly. Some things are so close to you that you don't see them. They say, plain as the nose on your face. I could remember everything that happened to me, but there was a point in my memory that went blank. It was that moment at the top of the stairs when we changed positions, where my back was to the stairs and his back was to the back. And I could not for the life of me remember what the hell happened and how that happened. So Debs had said to me, listen, I can help you. And I have to tell you, I don't know if it's misogyny or if it's just I'm an idiot or whatever. But I mean, if you ever meet Debs, she's this tiny little pixie person. She's tiny. And I'm about 6'3" and 280. So I can think, you're not going to be able to do anything to me. You're not going to be able to hypnotize me. You're not going to get me to relax. But our first session was this. I'll just show you. She said, okay, John, relax. And that was it. It was over for me. She crippled me immediately. But in the film, you actually see the session. The session was 6 hours long, but you can't put 6 hours into a film. But you see the raw responses of what happens when I discover the truth. And it was amazing, and it changed my life. At that point, I knew that not only was this important for me as a catharsis, but it was also important to share it with other people. And so my medium is not radio or podcasts or art, it's film. And so I decided to put the entire thing into a film. I know that's a really long answer, but I'm an Irish guy, and so if I had a
Nuts.
beer, you'd be screwed because we talk for 10 hours.
No, it's all good. Let me see if I can share this. Where's this at? Okay, here we go. I'm getting a hang of this screen sharing thing. Okay, so here is the trailer for the film that John's talking about, and we're going to talk about some more right after we watch this.
This is not communication, it's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. And it is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft. I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
All right, we're not getting a Nintendo, guys. Just calm down. Okay, so what do you what do you feel like? What is going on internally when you watch that, John?
I still have a difficult time with it. I've had to, of course, because we're promoting the film, I've had to talk about it a lot. And it gets easier to speak about, but when I actually watch it, it's difficult because, and this is part of the film that I think people will find unique, is it's very visceral. Our film is immersive, meaning that other documentaries, they usually have this kind of a reel of old footage or something, and you hear some guy say, back in 1947 this crash disc, but that's not the way this is filmed. This is a first person, really a voyage. It's this quest, and I am, if we were the tarot, I would be the fool. And I'm going through this thing, and then you see it from my point of view. You're with me when I interview these beautiful people. You're with me when I'm going through this ontological shock as a young boy, and then you're with me as I get some answers and start to have some understanding, and then start to realize there's a consciousness piece to this entire thing. So most people tell me that when they watch it, one of the reasons that it's one of their favorites is because it actually moved them. They find themselves, kind of laughing at the tongue in cheek. They find themselves smiling at the right times and also tearing up when it's appropriate, because it's not one of these antiseptic kind of third person narratives. You are literally in the story with me.
Yeah. Well, I think that has a lot to do because I think everybody has had an experience in one way, form, or fashion, and it's covered up or programmed out of us by our parents and society over time where we don't even recognize it. I just had Sev talk on Sunday evening, and she's a MUFON investigator, and she's heading up to MUFON symposium that's coming up in Denver and starting in July 8th, 9th, and 10th. But she was speaking about, we kind of got to the same conclusion that we believe everybody has had these encounters in some way, form, or fashion. So people watching this and the emotion it brings up is triggering, but it's triggering. I think it's something that's needed in these times because some of us has repressed memories, some of us have or coded memories, and let's talk about that a little bit. Did the individual that you had contact with that left the mark, what was he when you were 7 again?
To my mind, I was looking at this character called Ultraman. But when I went under, I realized that was not who that guy was at all. It was some sort of either placed in my mind to make sure that I was calm, or it was a screen memory that my mind came up with to defend me against the trauma of the event. Yeah.
It's very interesting. The reason it stuck out to me in when I was watching the documentary. So when John goes under, for the audience, when John goes under, he sees the being, not as the being when he was 7, as a totally different being. So it brought up something in me that we encounter a lot in ayahuasca ceremonies. So we'll have multiple people in ayahuasca ceremonies. One person could have a vision, and they could see Jesus, and the person beside them could see Buddha, but they're getting the same message, but the characters are different. And my theory really is that when we go into a conscious realm, the picture we see is whatever makes sense to us in that moment for us to absorb that lesson. And I'm starting to see exactly what you're talking about come up more and more, where people coming on the show and showing their experiences, that they are different, and they change over time. um, One thing I would say to you: don't be surprised if it changes again. If that character changes again for you, once you deal with it a little more, it may even change a little more. Because right now, I feel like it has a negative connotation on your heart. That incident, it feels almost like a negative event because you have a hard time going through it. But I think if you revisit this later on down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if that character changed it for you. And that's just my thoughts. So
I trust and I hope you're right. Yeah. How's that?
So yeah, that's great. So what have you? Well, obviously, you're talking about consciousness already. So, what are some of the consciousness messages or realizations that you've had from this moment? And also, before we get too far into that, I would like to know: have you had this tested? Have you had that area tested where you were spot on your shoulder?
Tested how?
Anyway, in any way. So
I've had physicals, throughout my life, and every single time a new doctor sees it, he says, "Whoa, what the heck is that?" And I make up some silly thing. I said, I told a doctor once that I got speared by a marlin. And he laughed and then just didn't think about it. It was just a joke. I've fluffed it off. So no, it's been manipulated. People have touched it. I can tell you this from my own experience. It changes color, and it also it changes temperature. I've never really kind of monitored when those things happen, but they absolutely happen. Sometimes it becomes very, very pale, and then sometimes it becomes very bright red and very hot to the touch. So
Does
I
ever
can't.
you ever feel it vibrating?
No, I feel vibrations in my head, but not in the shoulder. Not in the shoulder.
I'm a sun dancer, and the piercing is part of the sun dance where you pierce
Right.
through the chest, and then that you break, and those are like and it looks just very similar to your mark. So like
I see.
a piercing, Sundance piercing after it heals, and I've had some of the same things happen with my Sundance scars. So I was
Uh,
just curious.
well,
Yeah,
I hope we get to meet in the flesh, and you can take a look at it for me, please.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
Good,
So
good.
is there any other characteristics of your scar? Like, is there anything you feel under it or anything like that?
No, I to be honest with you, and it's even strange that you mentioned this, because even now that I've gone through this last 3.5 years of exploring this thing, um, I kind of ignore it, almost like I don't want to know. And I'm saying this for the very, very first time because you are the only person who's ever asked me this question, the only one. And so now I'm realizing that I'm almost like bifurcated. I speak about it like I know it, and the truth is I don't know anything about it, except to say this, that I can tell you under Deb's care and during a session that the result of this, or how it came to be, was some sort of a defensive energy that actually did not generate from the entity, but generated from me. And that was one of the weirdest things that happened. Absolutely weirdest things. And there's a term that I had used that was completely foreign to me. Something about I was claiming my lightning. Something about this, something that I possessed. My lightning. I kept talking about my lightning. As this little boy, that I had this lightning. And I was defending myself at this point, not only with fisticuffs, but with my lightning. And what had happened was, please forgive me, I'm just telling you what I observed. I kind of threw this bolt of lightning, and this entity, instead of, remember, in my mind, he reached out and touched me. What it really was he reached out to defend himself. So I, like this, and that came back on me and then
It's
knocked me backwards.
it startled you.
Yeah, it did. It was because it was so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
I can't explain that. I can't explain it, but that's,
did did I hear you say that when you went into the regression, that you went and viewed the incident from opposite points of view? Was that
I was able to do that. Yeah. The therapy that Deb Shakti practices is quantum hypnosis, which is a little bit different than regular hypnosis. Regular hypnosis, for folks out there who don't know, is kind of a linear line. You're in a terrible car accident and you can't tell what the license plate was or what the car looked like. Well, of course you can't, because your mind picked it all up. They can relax you enough so you can see that. In quantum hypnosis, the idea is that all things are one, they're all connected, they're all happening at the same time. So literally, almost like an NDE, you could lift yourself out of the situation, and all of a sudden you can see that little boy who rolled that ball across the street, which made the car swerve, which made hit you. And so that's what was able to happen for me, is when we got into this and I was examining it, I was completely surprised, because like you said, my recollection that I had for 45 years was faulty. That was not Ultraman. That was not, those flashing lights were a piece of something, but they weren't flashing lights for the, flashing lights of it. They represented something that was actually happening. Those huge screens that you saw. So yes, I was able to see it from several different points of view.
It's very interesting. I had So anyone that's read my book, my first book, especially, I had a face-to-face encounter near Chaco Canyon in 2018 with ET on the ground, face-to-face. I was awake. It was not in ceremony or anything like that. It was just a spontaneous thing. A week or two after that, I had a dream where I went and I had to experience from the other point of view. So I've had the experience from the ET looking at myself, and that's when I learned multidimensionality. I learned through bilocation, through experience. We were talking a little bit before the show about having knowledge and experience and the difference of that, and experiencing that definitely gave me a vast understanding of the aspect of multidimensionality. So it's very interesting that over time, and the incident that you see in the ship triggered all this to come forward, and now you're really starting to really dig deep into the incident and figure out what happened. I think it's beautiful, man. Like
thank you.
it sounds a lot like people go through ceremonies. It's that's why I believe, and we're about to start to go into the more consciousness aspect of it. Unless you have anything more about the show that you want to share.
Well, I just wanted to say that if people watch the film, they don't have to see my ugly face the whole time. there are, and Debs is a beautiful part of this. I continue to call her my guardian angel, and she gave me such peace. And I hope that anybody out there who needs to talk to her should, and they should reach out for her. But also, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about the beautiful place we gathered, which was McGarb's. It was an arbor vitae, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the people that are involved. This is important. I know Melissa and Debs and Jan and Arthur and Ruth and all these beautiful people, Anna, all of these folks. When you see them, you're going to be able to see yourself. Maybe you won't be able to identify with me. Maybe you won't be able to identify with my experience. But these are people from every kind of walk of life. They have different educations. They have different, some are moms and dads, some are business owners, and there we were in the middle of these gorgeous woods, talking to each other, being completely honest with each other, and not worrying about what other people said. And you can't believe the truth that they shared with me. And I will be eternally grateful to all of them. And so if we want to get into consciousness, I would really like to do that, please.
Yeah. So, well, let's start off. Like, what is your definition of this phenomenon?
I have a kind of a framework that I work with. I know that you've had a couple different people on your show, and they have different views, and and bad aliens and good aliens and federations and all this other stuff. I don't think that it's really possible for us to literally wrap our arms around the entirety of this thing. We are a speck on a speck on a speck on a speck, and yet we're part of this huge whole. But the truth of the matter is, our consciousness right now and our brain power, etc., you can't eat an elephant in one bite, if you will, right? So I prefer to think of things from sources. And so I think that when you ask me this question, let me say this to you. I believe that what people are experiencing in general, across the board, are four different sources of this phenomena. Number one, we have to admit to ourselves that our governments, with an S, have technology and psyops that we don't know about. They lied about Area 51 forever until some cameras were out there and they said, oh yeah, oh this place? We know they lie. They have their own reasons to lie. So that's fine. That's fine. So just admit that some of the things that are happening, some of the things that people are experiencing are, in fact, psyop and absolutely part tech from our governments. Secondly, the second source is somehow Gaia herself, this huge ball that we live on, this planet, is alive. It's filled with energy. It's filled with an intellect. And for people who really are entrenched in this 3D construct, I say, well, look at this. Everything has a place. For example, magnets. You can't take two norths and put them together. They reject, because that's not the logic of the universe. The negative has to be with the positive. There's an intelligence. And we, as people who used to live in nature and in the woods, we would see earthquake lights, we would see ball lightning, we would see fairies and the wee folk and the good folk. And we would understand that as some sort of intelligence from Gaia herself. And some of the things that people are experiencing, and I actually have had the great pleasure to experience something like that along my path here, is from that source. Then third of all, yes, we are experiencing some sort of nuts and bolts craft, drone, ship from other places. How they get here, I'm not sure. I don't know if they warp speed. I don't know warp time. I don't know. But look, use your mind. We, as crazy as we are as a species, we're sending probes all throughout our solar system. It's happening today. And what do? We send them out, and what's the second thing we do? We take pictures, we observe, and then we take samples. That's what we do, because we're studying that. And if we came upon an intelligent animal or some sort of living being, we would take samples. We would absolutely study them, and we might fly down in a helicopter and shoot them with a dart and put a tag in their ear and track their migration, just like we do here on Earth, because we're studying them. Okay, there's something to that, and that is part of this experience. And then last of all, and this is where we want to land, Drew, there is this force, this intelligence, these entities that live outside our dimension. And we have named them since the beginning of time as angels and demons and God and jinn. And they somehow are able to press themselves into our dimension, interact with us, and then disappear. And this is the one that most people have the most difficulty with. Now, there are two issues here. The first issue is that when people are experiencing these things, they lock themselves in. No, listen, let me tell you something. These guys were reptoids, and this is the way it is, and all of them are reptoids. Then you'll have somebody over here. No, they were grays, and they work for these. Listen, guys, listen. Your arms aren't big enough to absorb it all. Okay, just take the information and continue to learn, but don't claim an answer. I got yelled at the other day. Somebody was saying about, oh, well, Mr. Answers, alien abduction answers. I said, wait a second. It doesn't say the answer. It says answers. The idea is that this path has certain landmarks. There are certain things that you must go through. You have to go through that fear. Some people don't have much fear, but some people have a lot of fear. And if you ignore that, you're an idiot. You have to go through it. Then you have to go through the wonder. Then you have to go through the discovery. Then you have to go through more information. All of this is important to absorb. We're learning. We don't know anything. Drew, you and I were saying before the show, there's a difference between having all the facts and wisdom. Wisdom is a separate thing. And that's really where our focus needs to be. The upper echelons of this consciousness, this idea of ultra-terrestrials, the way I explain it to people who have no concept of that is this. Drew, if you and I were standing beside a pond, and I stuck my big Fred Flintstone head in the pond, right, and a fish swam up and saw my face, it would not look like any other fish it had ever seen. He would be totally confused. And my face would move unlike any other fish he had ever seen. And here's the most important part. The fish would have absolutely no concept that my face was attached to a head, which was attached to a neck, to a body, to a complete entity that had all kinds of business outside the realm of fish and pond. And then when I couldn't breathe anymore, I would pull my face back without a trace. This fish would go on to tell his friends, listen, this is what I saw. They'd go and see no evidence, and they would say, you're a liar, you're crazy, wear a tinfoil hat. But what I have done is I've pushed myself into that dimension and pulled myself out. That's an easy way for us as humans to understand that. And something is going on here. All of these things are connected. And I have a theory that the reason, or not the reason, but the real why they're connected is source. Okay. I don't care. Now listen, I'm not a smart guy, but I don't care if you are, let's just say you're very religious, okay? And you say, well, this is creator God. Okay, fine. Let's say that you're intellectual. And so you say, this is, what do they say? Intellectual design, okay? So it's a big computer game. Or let's say that you're very, very spiritual, or you're very, very secular, and you say, no, listen, this is all the Big Bang. This is okay. So I don't care if it's creator God, intellectual design, or intelligent design, or the Big Bang. Literally, all of us come from that source. You can call it whatever you want. You can have whatever kind of religious ideas or spiritual ideas you want about it, but we all come from source. So if that is fact, then we are all somehow connected. And this is why we are having these run-ins with this. This is all kind of our family, regardless of how we're reacting to it or how we're experiencing it. We're somehow connected, and that connection draws us together like those magnets. And we all have our different agendas.
What? Curious, where did source come from in your vocabulary? Like, where did that come from?
No, I just meant it as origin. I don't have a specific connotation to it at all, or denotation. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have a specific. Yeah. Just the origin point. The origin point.
So the downloads. So I channeled Osiris, Archangel Michael, 11th Palladian Collective, and one time I was channeling Archangel Michael, and I'm like, man, you sound. Drew has always been a coherent person in the channelings. He still kept his ego and awake. So Drew would ask the question, you sound, Archangel Michael sounds exactly like Osiris. It said ding ding ding, you're catching, you're onto something. I said, so what is the name of, like what I'm speaking to? Is it God? And it said, no, think past that. And it said, there is no name for what I am, but if you have to refer to me as source, because I am the source. I am the source of all creation. You are the creator through the power of manifestation. So that's a channeling and a part of my first book. But it just
all those guys, they won't answer my calls.
But source will. That's interesting. So yeah, it's whenever source pops up, I always want to wonder where where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way: since it is the source, then it pervades everything. Then it's in your DNA, it's in your consciousness, it's in my consciousness, it's everywhere. So where did it come from? Exactly there.
Mm-hmm. So what was there any religious aspect about your childhood growing up? Catholic, Christian?
I was just like every other bored Catholic kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time you go to church, it's you don't have to go to yoga, or you don't have to go to aerobics, because you can stand and kneel and stand and kneel and stand and kneel. So, but I wasn't an overly religious kid at all. I knew instinctively that, and I think this is really key. I knew instinctively there was something bigger than us. Something bigger. And I think really that's the problem with us, and why there's so much contact now and so many visions, is because we have become so egocentric that we have laughed at Copernicus. We are the center of the universe, and we are the top of the food chain. And what these entities are here saying, hello, listen, first of all, you're not. Second of all, you could be so much more. Mm-hmm. Your egos are in the way of your development.
Yep. Yeah, the way it was described to be, if we let go of preconceived notions, we're actually a lot bigger blessings than what we understand. You know, each breath is a blessing. You know, all this other stuff.
Makes sense to me.
So what is so what are you doing for? You know, obviously, I'm sure you have other regressions planned for the future, maybe, or is
Well,
there? Or
well, you know what? Boy, I tell you, Drew, you ask really great questions. Thank you. Um, and I'm never really ready to answer them. So let me give you my best answer. Okay, here's the thing. You know, it's been a blessing to do this film, but also there's you know, like everything, there's this bifurcation. So I'm also a filmmaker. I'm also the guy who, you know, if you if you have a film and nobody sees it, then that's a problem. You know, you made the film so people would see. So I spent all this time trying to promote it, talk to people about it, and interest them in the idea, and then talk to them afterwards. Okay, but meanwhile, you know, I am not a stagnant thing. This is not a documentary in the classic sense. You know, most people who do documentaries, and you've talked to a ton of them, are usually researchers. So they're talking about other people. They're not talking about themselves going through it. So I'm having all kinds of problems personally. Because what happened was, I think that, and I just think, I don't know, I think that by talking about it, by opening this box, I have, and I was supposed to activate something almost like a time capsule. It was supposed to happen now. This is what I'm going through. So I can't stop the things that are happening now. You know what I mean? I kind of thought, oh, well, this is all just in my past, and I was a 7-year-old boy. And during the regression, I find out that it happened many times. And what a fool I am, right? I'm a fool. And then so we make the movie, and I think, oh, well, that, you know, that isn't that nice? I tied it up in a nice bow, and this is great. We'll make another one. No, I'm an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot, because what happens is that I'm not in control. You know, I'll just give you a stupid example. I live an hour and 10 minutes away from my office, right? It shouldn't take me 3 hours to get home. It often takes me 3 hours to get home, and I have no idea where I've been. There's all kinds of crazy stuff like this happening to me. During one of my podcasts, an entity appears on screen with Grant Cameron. I don't even notice. People are telling me about it. They see it on tape. But okay, so things are happening to me. So I can't just say, "Hey, listen, can you cats hold off until I get the money to make the sequel?" You know, because they don't want to. You know, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. And like I said, I'm an idiot. I don't know. So, so. I have. I'm so called. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There is a sequel coming.
I am working on the pre-production work on a sequel called Alien Abduction Awareness, and the idea is that, you know, as you my first film was supposed to take people, or hopefully take them from ignorance, which most people are in because we don't know, ignorance and fear, because that's why people are afraid, because they're ignorant, to some sort of understanding. I'm not saying they understand everything, but some sort of understanding. And then the second film is to take them from some sort of understanding to some sort of integration of that information. You know, pull it into your life. If you know that something is good for you, you know, if you know a vitamin is good for, well, then you can take it. But if you never knew that it was good for you, how could you take it? If you know something is bad for you, you don't know that you have to avoid it. Okay, on and on and on. And then the third film really is to take people from integration to really ascension. And that's the final destination. But here's, like I said, there's so much happening. You can't eat an elephant in one bite. If I tried to cram that all into one film, it would have been Lord of the Rings times 5, and nobody would have watched the damn thing. I had to take people where I was too, because I can only speak from my ignorance, which is continuous, as you can tell. I am not a smart guy. I use little words. but here's the thing. So I can't tell the whole story because I don't know where the whole story is going to take me. But what I'm on this desperate search for that truth. You heard me say in the end of the trailer, I even if it scares the hell out of me, even if it's too much for me to take, I need to know. I need to know. And that's why I'm hoping that this film it helps people, because if they need to know, but they're too afraid or they're too cautious, they can hide behind my shoulder and watch it from there. They can live vicariously through it. The second film, Awareness, picks up where the last film is, where, okay, so now I was a total idiot and a fool, and now I'm kind of a smart idiot in that I realize some things now, right? And some things have been open to me. But now what do I do with that? You know, I muse in the film. I say, how does bright, shiny lights in the sky make me re-examine who I am as a person? How does that happen? And why does it happen? And why should it happen? Right?
Paradigm
Yeah.
shifts.
Yeah.
Paradigm shifts.
And so what happens is in this second film that I'm laying out, I'm forcing myself to confront these paradigm shifts. You know, you talk about Mother Ayahuasca. This is something that we were talking about as one of the things that might be able to finally break through this left brain of mine and shake my tree enough to say, okay, look, you know, you realize you have blinders on, okay, and you're smart enough to get that, but now it's time to open your eyes. And right, you feel me?
Yeah.
And so I'm desperately trying to, in my own personal life, do that, but not do it too fast, because I want to capture it on camera. Because the things in the film, and this is so important, people were asking, well, you know, is that regression, you know, staged? No, baby, you're watching it raw. You see it raw. And I'm, you know, I'm not a pretty crier. I'm kind of an ugly crier. So you know, you're going to have to live through that, folks. Sorry about that. But so this is my conflict. So what's going on right now is I'm promoting the film like hell. I'm negotiating the foreign rights right now, and that should be out in the autumn. And then I'm also working on the pre-production work for the next film, which is Alien Abduction, Awareness. And I'm hoping to start shooting in August. But, you know, I'm trying to raise money, and, you know, I mean, it's hard, you know, because the last film, we put all of our cash into it, and I don't regret it at all. But, you know, it takes money. That's all there is to it. You know, so that's what we're doing.
It all takes money.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been I got a whisper about the second project a while ago, and I've been holding up. Man, I've been wanting to talk about it. You know,
we can talk about it. We can talk about it. Like I said, ayahuasca is this modality, this therapy. In fact, if I may, there is a woman that I respect very, very much, and I have grown to honor and love. Her name, and people have seen her probably on the internet. Her name is Linda Aurora. And Linda Aurora has been a very good advisor to me and helpful. She came to my attention several years ago because she had such incredible contact, and she had such incredible contact documented on film, where she is literally out loud communicating with this phenomena, and it is responding to her voice. Dude, I want to tell you something. I was knocked over with a feather. I could not believe that it was real. And then, of course, you know, because I have camera guys and editors and all kinds of scientists, you know, we go through it. It's absolutely true. It's real. So we became fast friends, and I've talked to her for so long. So I'm talking to her. I told you off air, I said, the mother, I said, is not in my way. She has kind of surrounded me, and I'm swimming through her, because this is what happened. I by total accident, I said to her, I said, you know, Linda, was this always the way it was for you, even when you were a little kid? And, you know, because I'm naturally inquisitive, you know, because I'm an interviewer and this. And she said, oh, no. She said, you know, I always knew there was something more. But then I went through some ayahuasca therapy. And I said, you wait a minute, you're kidding me, because I was just thinking that. So what the story is this, is that she had things that she wanted to go through, and so she went, and she actually went through the therapy 12 times. At the end of this, she had cleaned out her mind, her soul, her spirit, whatever, and she was open to the universe. She said, show me. Oh, and oh my God, be careful what you ask for, because there's an old Polish word. She got zuched, and they zuched her good, because this stuff is incredible. You see some of this footage, and I said, that's amazing. And so I talked to her about where I am, and I've attacked this thing with the tools that I have. I'm the kind of guy who will fool around with a Rubik's Cube for days, maybe never solve it, but I won't give up, right? I'm pressed, but it's got to be something I do. And I'm realizing it's not about me. Okay, I have to surrender a little bit here to allow that to happen. So she said to me, John, I would recommend that you consider this. So I did some reading, and then of course I talked to Deb Shakti, who I told you is my, I absolutely adore her. I kiss the ground that she walks on. She's really a guardian angel to me. And she said, John, this is very interesting to me too. And then she talked to Melissa, and then of course up in Big Arb, they have created this wonderful church, and so they were talking about this and about having ceremony there. And I said, oh my goodness, this is something that, number one, and boy, this is going to sound selfish, but number one, I have to do to really move forward. I have to do. Number two, if I do it, it has to be raw and real for the people who trust me now. The people who are riding on my shoulder, or, in my pocket or whatever, to kind of witness this. Now, I know that there are all kinds of things around that, because I also have this tremendous sense of honor and respect that I approach everything with. And so, there's that fine line, right? You might be able to talk about it, but you can't be filming things. You know what I mean? There's sacred boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm messing with all these things in my head, that Rubik's Cube, like I'm telling you, right? Mm-hmm. Because the most important thing to me is to do it right. Mm-hmm. Is to tell the truth. I lied my entire life. And when I say in the promo about it changing me, it did. And so I only want to do the right thing, the next right thing, the next best thing, and do it right. Hey, don't ask me any more questions, because I'll just talk your earphones off. I'm sorry.
I think you're leading from the heart, brother. I think you're doing everything that's supposed to be doing, and I definitely think this conversation is gonna go somewhere. I definitely know that we're gonna be seeing each other at some time.
I hope.
There's and there's ways to get around it. Like, you don't have to film the necessary ceremony, because you're not gonna see anything in the ceremony that's gonna be groundbreaking, anyways. You need to get before and after. And right before the ceremony and right after the ceremony, you can even people. Let's see. So I'm gonna share this right here. This gentleman, a good friend of mine, has come to ceremony with me. His eyes are changing color after ceremony. So there's, and I've seen actual physical features, lines leaving, like a face being lifted after these ceremonies, because we don't understand. Like, it's all about releasing traumas and releasing the traumas.
So you're saying there's actual hope for this face? You can give me. Are you telling me right now, Drew, that you can give me a human head?
I give you a facelift, man. I mean, I can't. I don't.
Miracles.
I can't guarantee miracles. They could happen. I've seen them happen, but So, so do you have any experience with psychedelics? Maybe
No, sir.
younger,
No,
any
no,
hippie days or?
no. Hippie. Look at this haircut. Look at this haircut guy.
I just
I
had
see.
dreads. I just had dreads a couple
No,
weeks ago, so
well, no, no.
you never know.
I've always been a clean cut kind of kid, and no, look, my family is all Celtic, Irish, and that whole thing. So Irish whiskey and some Guinness throughout my life, but never psychedelics, and never medicine. Always
Yeah.
depressants, really.
So what? Now, do you get woken up at night anymore? Around do you get woken up around that time? And is the ringing, humming a recurring thing or not?
Yeah, I've had multiple occasions, different phenomena. I've been awakened by a command. I hear a voice in my head, and it's audible in that I can hear the word being formed as though it's like right in my ear, but it's not. It's not out here. It's inside my head. I've heard a couple of those. I am noticing that I don't get the hum anymore, but what I get is when they are close, or let me say this, when I am close to them, maybe that's the case. I noticed there is a very, very high pitched whine. And to be honest with you, I attribute this, and once again, I speak out of ignorance. I don't know anything. I'm asking questions. But my guess is that somehow there is a vibrational change that is happening right before one of these things occur. So I can see you and you can see me, or we can experience this thing. And I think that there's that, and that's why it has like an after effect, or a residual of that high pitched noise or that hum. Yeah, I've had some. I'll tell you the craziest thing that's happened to me is waking up outside in my skivvies in the middle of the night. The doors are all locked and I have alarms on everything. And how the hell did I get out here? And then trying to explain it to my wife. That's interesting. So when you have to knock on the door and say, "Honey, can you let me in?" So that's an interesting thing. I and this I'm having a lot of missing time, to be honest with you, Drew. I'm just missing it, and I don't know where it's going, because it's like I say, I'm a very straight, in the box line, checks the box. This is what I do for a living. You have to be like this to make that work, and I'm not off for flights of fancy or side trips or whatever, and I drive the same way every day. So I don't know what's happening, but there is something happening, and
Well,
I haven't been able to explore it because Debs has been so busy, and we don't live in the same area. She's in Kansas City and I'm in Pittsburgh, but we were hoping to get together, and it's just trying to promote the film and this sort of thing. It just prevented me from taking next steps, and this is why I'm hoping that after the international film rights are done, that I can say, okay, listen, it's time for the guy to go up on the mountain, or to Big Arb, if you will, and do some real work with people who are experienced like yourself, who know what you're doing. You're very service to others. You're caring, you're loving, you're spiritual, and you're there to help. You know what I mean? As opposed to some, joking and smoking and crazy people, because I'm very serious about what has to happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I totally agree, man. It's but this thing, is. So do you think this is the evolution of humanity? Do you think we're going through a biblical or prophetic time, or it could be called a lot of things. I see it as we're going through a very unique situation in our timeline where we're going to see. This is what I was shown, John. I was shown that we're something that is unique about everyone that's alive right now and is going through this transition. We're starting off at one point in humanity, and at the end, where towards the end of our lives, we're going to be going into a whole nother evolutionary phase, and we're going through this transition in our lifetime. So we're seeing two different lives, and a lot of us can equate. If you were to meet me back in 2009 when I got back from Iraq, you would not recognize me. The looks almost the same. I don't age. I do. That's something good about ayahuasca.
Keep rubbing it in. Keep rubbing it in.
No, a lot of people think I'm in my 30s, man. I'm in my 40s. So, but it's definitely two different lives. I say it all the time. It really feels like a different life. When I think about when I see pictures of me in Iraq, I have to look at them for a minute and be like, wow, that was a totally different me.
It
And
was.
I think it's synonymous with what's going on in a bigger picture. I think we're starting off in one point and going to end in another. And I think that involves frequency of vibration. I think that involves our carbon bodies going to more crystalline. I think that involves us connecting with the sun and getting rid of all the thousands of deities that put boundaries on our minds, and so our minds can expand out into unknown.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening. Do you see that?
I think you have the handle on this thing. One of the things that people don't understand is this. When you say evolution, okay, just think about it in its purest sense. Is the constant growing or adaptation to take advantage of the environment in front of you, right? In front of you. Okay. Well, nobody has ever lived through evolution, and we are living through it. This is why it's so screwed up, because we don't really have anybody say, by the way, this is going to happen to you guys, and you're going to see these things, and this is going to happen. It's going to feel really weird. And you have children, I know, and you can tell them, hey, listen, when you go on your sled ride, this is the way it's going to feel. Or you go for the first time on a water slide, you can tell them. There's nobody around in our 3D that specifically you can't. Now, we have people who are experienced and descended. Yeah, but you got to find them. You got to look for them. I'm just talking about the guy down at the end of the street that sells donuts. He doesn't have anybody that's going to say, by the way, Joe, this is about to happen to you.
Yeah.
So we're living through it, and that's why it's so weird. What I truly believe, Whitley Strieber, who's a huge part of this film, and he really is like a philosopher. I totally am in awe of this guy. He said something. He said, these visitors are here as the harbinger of man, meaning that they are here to kind of tap us on the shoulder and say, listen, there is more to you, and things are going to happen. And you have to grow with it. You have to absorb it. These are going to be difficult times. You're an adolescent and you're growing into adulthood. Yes, you're going to want to drive the car, but you can't yet because you don't have a license. These are things that you have to understand and grow into. Our technology has outgrown our spirituality and outgrown our maturity. And all of these things are indicating to us that we are being taught by someone who cares about what is happening to us. And if I may, I'm going to take a right turn here. Okay, there's something in the news just recently, and so I think it's pertinent and also a great germane example of what I'm talking about. Okay, you're a military man, so you understand this immediately, right? You're hearing these stories from around the world about these balls of light or these craft that come upon Air Force bases, military outposts, okay? Maelstrom up in Montana. Okay, but watch this. There are two ways to look at this. And it's almost like a little kid and it's like an adult, okay? So watch. They fly up, right? The guys are outside. They got their, they don't carry M1s anymore. They're M16s, I guess, or double A's or whatever. And so they're out there. They see them. They're crapping themselves because they're like, what the hell is this? They call their chain of command. They're screaming downstairs. These things kind of freeze everybody. They deconnect. They take these missiles offline, right? They don't hurt anybody.
This is
They
not. This
stay
is
there.
not. I want to point this out right quick. This is not theory. This is.
No, this
This is.
happened.
This is
This
starting to
happened.
become fact. This is starting to
Yeah,
become fact. I
yeah.
just want to point
These
this out real
are
quick.
real reports. This is all coming out, and it was in fact, I can't remember his name. Salas, I believe he was I think he was a colonel. I can't remember. But so they take them offline, right? Then they stay there for a little while. They retreat, and in a few minutes, all of the missiles come back online. Now, so watch this. Watch this. As a child, meaning us, humans, we say, oh, this is an act of war. They're trying to threaten us and they're going to kill us and we have to beat the hell out of them. Okay? Right? Okay. You took my toy truck and I'm going to give you a wedgie. All right? Okay. So this is the way the child looks at it. But look, let's examine it, right? If we want to follow the science, so let's follow the facts. So these things approach, okay? They don't hurt anybody, okay? They go in, they turn off our toys. They say, look, this is the way they should look. They stand back and they retreat and they come back on. So wait a minute. If they have the technology to turn them off, they have the technology to destroy them. They could have hurt all the men there. They could have destroyed the base. They could have destroyed the missiles, but they didn't. What they did was they said, children, look, I'm going to turn these off. Do you see this? This is the way it should be. Don't light the match. Don't destroy the planet. Don't kill everybody. That's bad. Don't do that. Okay, but look, you have to grow up and you have to make your own decisions and you have free will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the good example and then I'm going to drift back, turn them back on, and now you make the choice. That is what is happening. We are being given a choice. And this evolution, this next evolution of mankind is really a choice. We are given the opportunity to decide to engage, to retreat, or just to stay where we are. For me personally, my choice is to open up to the possibility. I need to know what's behind door number 3. I need to know. Because anybody who would try to turn these damn things off, look, I'm all about, self-defense or whatever, but I'm also not about destroying the damn planet. I'm, because I live here, that would suck.
When William Shatner went up with not Terror in the Sky, but went up with Bezos, and went to the edge of space and then seen Earth and came back.
Yes, sir.
Man, when he was sitting there describing his experience, if you would have inserted ayahuasca in a few points in his conversation, it would have sounded exactly like a post-integration talk with someone that just come out of ayahuasca. Like I was able to see Earth from space.
Wow.
And that allowed me to see. That allowed me to understand that she was a living being, because if you can see it, if you're off of it, you can understand it, And you said earlier about, our nose is always in front of us, but we're looking past it because we're looking out of 2 portholes, kind of in a spiritual sense. And our nose is right there in front of us. That's kind of like all these answers, like of what is really going on.
Yeah.
So, Tesla had it. I feel that Tesla had it 100% right. I feel he was a star being as well, as we all are in a sense. We all have connections to the stars in our DNA. We all have actual crystals in our bodies. This is not a thought. It's actual
a fact.
Science. It's actual fact. Our lenses that we look through are crystal specks that we open up and close so we can see a certain picture. Anyways, but That's definitely one of the downloads that I was given when I started asking, what is this going on? Like, is this is this just an evolution I'm going through, or is this a human evolution? So it involves everybody, and it involves a crystalline activating inside our bodies, and it's I think that's what's happening with all of us when we start to dissect these things that's happened to us and start to give them credence of alien abductions or whatever it is. Ultimately, it's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift through near death experiences. It's a paradigm shift through crafts. It's a paradigm shift through face to face encounters. And there's so many people coming forward with face to face encounters now. Like, and this is the if you think a paradigm shift of seeing a craft will really flip you upside down or flip your shit, try being face to face with one, and you obviously you know what I'm talking about. You've been
totally different thing. Yeah,
you've been dissecting this for 30, 40 years, or whatever it's been.
Go ahead, say granddad. Go ahead, say granddad.
No, I'm
sticking with my young looking friend.
I'm sticking with 30 or 40 years, man. I'm sticking with 30 or 40 years.
You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy. To other people, I guess. I don't know.
So, man, so this, what practices are you going through now, like, to try to keep yourself sane? Like,
damn it. Another good question that nobody asks me. Actually, to be fair, Deb's asked me that question, and our beautiful Kimberly Marie, who you met in the film, has been very helpful. Listen, I have no practice. I have no, kind of like when you came back from the service, I talk to these good people, and they meditate and they do breath work and they, all this stuff. And I work. I work and I work and I work. And they talk about balance and stuff. And I have engaged in it because I've been taught some of it by these wonderful people. And I've included it in my Rubik's Cube brain. But this is where my facts end. And what I need is real experience. I need a practice. I need to get away. I need to get up on a mountain. I need to get into the woods with you guys. I need to do these things, because without it, I'm going to be the smartest idiot in my village. I'm going to know that there's something up there, and I'll be able to talk about it, but I won't be able to tell you what it really is, because I've never experienced it. So to keep saying, I'm not sane. I'm not sane at all. Thanks for pointing that out, by the way.
so you don't have any practices you're doing right now?
No, sir.
No, sir. So the first time I met Grant Cameron was in 2019. We did 2 interviews, and we spoke about ayahuasca a lot, and he had no experience with that. But since then, he has went through the John Hopkins protocols with psilocybin, and done multiple sessions on his own. Okay. And we had the last time we spoke here about 2 months ago on my show here. It was a much different conversation. So
I'm sure
it's yeah, I'm really excited where the.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, if I wanted to experience ayahuasca ceremony, and say I was 30 days out from experiencing, how would you suggest to me and to the audience to prepare my mind, my soul, my heart, my body to receive that? I'm sure you wouldn't say, well, go to your local bar and do shots and have a Burger King burger or whatever. What would you say? What would you say?
There's a whole list of protocols we go through. For us personally, we go through at this time, 30 days out, we would go through a meeting, and we would talk about intention. We want to know, like, what your reasoning is to doing this. If it's if it's anything outside of really bettering yourself, we kind of maybe try it's time to put off, but that's the first thing. We want to know why first. Because that's the first thing you have to set in your mind. And anytime, your mind's already set. You will do ayahuasca at one point or another. So that means, time's of illusion, and everything's happening right now. So that means the ceremony's already started for you. That's why she keeps popping up, so you won't forget her. As far as physical, getting ready, start drinking water, cut out coffee, no alcohol, no pharmaceuticals. Um, just try to get a really bland diet. Try to cut out all meat. If you have to eat meat at all, eat fish or something, wild game or something like that. Stay away from pork. Stay away from factory raised meats or anything like that. Try to get organic meats. If you have to eat meat, the dieta calls for plants, because you're going to connect with a plant spirit. So connecting with plants is something you need to start getting in the habit of before ceremony. So daily salads, and eating a lot of vegetables. Fresher the better. More alive the better. You're eating the more high vibration food you can take in, and start to set up a practice. Start to figure out your breath, because your breath is going to be your best friend in ceremony. So start trying to meditate, or start trying to learn how to control your breath. And we have further protocols that we don't have time for to speak of all
Sure,
that, but
sure.
And know that your life's never going to be the same after. You're going to look at the world from a different point of view after the ceremony, and whatever that looks like. I know we don't set that. That's all set between you and the medicine. Gets decided in ceremony, but it's going to be different, and you may be disconnected from people in your life because it's going to be hard to communicate, because people are not going to, much like you probably already experienced ever since you come out of your experience with, back when you were 7, and the subject of this documentary. You're going to be separated from family, and just know that that's going to happen. And it's not, it doesn't reflect on you or them. It's just, it reflects on the situation of what's going on. And buckle up. And just buckle up. It's
Is there any danger? People have asked me about this, and so I don't know. So I'm asking somebody who knows. Is there any danger? Are they right to be afraid? There's some people with trepidation.
The being scared is another form of respect, and this is what I tell people. So maybe your fear is not so much fear. Maybe the fear you're having is respect. Um, Being scared of something unknown is something that we are kind of expected to do. I still get a little nervous before each ceremony, because I'm dealing with something very, very, very strong. And I recognize its strength. Is there something to be scared of, whether you're going to have a bad trip or something like that? No, I don't. I think whatever your mindset is, that's what you're going to get out of it. If you go into it and have uh, a lot of thoughts of going crazy and things like that, then that may be part of what you get. But if you go in there with the intentions of healing, releasing, and expanding, you're gonna, like you said before, you're gonna get whatever you ask for. And it's sometimes you really have to word your request very specifically, because I feel like this is example. I had been doing this since 2016, been full-time medicine man since about 2018. And I prayed for abundance. So I could build a bigger facility. I could bring in more people. I could get better medicine. I could get better instruments. I could do my message. I could spread my message more. So I prayed for abundance for years and years and years. And finally, I checked in with ayahuasca. I'm like, I'm still eating ramen noodles, man. Like, and sometimes I'm not eating even ramen noodles. I was doing ceremonies for free, and just there was I was really in a lot of selfless service, and I asked, where's this abundance come from? Well, it started showing me all the things that I've gotten through my spiritual path. I was gifted a buffalo skull from one of the chiefs at Sundance one year.
Wow.
Had a lot of feathers and a lot of other sacred items gifted to me over, all the time. Going on hikes and finding antler sheds and skulls and just all kinds of sacred items all the time. It said, you ask for abundance, and to us, spiritual energy to do the work is abundance.
Sure.
And I said, I want I want to clarify, I need monetary abundance because I'm still in the 3D.
Well, you better be careful, because they might give you like Russian rubles or that. You better ask for U.S. dollars, please.
Yeah, I don't want anything. I don't want anything involved with Ukraine or Russia. I don't.
No.
That shit might be worthless here. Who knows? That's like when I went to Iraq, and they were giving the locals are giving away the Iraqi dinar and stuff like that from Saddam. And like all us Americans were like, "Wow, this is cool. It's got Saddam's face on it." And they're like, "We use it for toilet paper. It's nothing for us."
Take one.
Yeah, I think I had one for a while. I gave it away a long time ago, but.
Well, let me ask you. I have some more questions. So here's another question. You said fear is another response, or another version of respect. Well, I'm a guy who's a very fearful guy, so I must be full of respect. The question I have for you is, if you wouldn't mind, would you share with us maybe one of the most stressful journeys you've ever taken in ceremony, to kind of give people, maybe that's a no-no, maybe that's not, I don't know if that's, you shouldn't talk about that, but if you can you share that with somebody? Can you share it with me?
Stressful,
fearful, something, I think a lot of people have the fear because, and this is just my summation, that feeling I told you about, that the sand slipping out from underneath my feet, right? It's the feeling of letting go. It's the feeling of not being in control. It's the feeling of, oh my God, I want to tighten, like somebody drowning, you tighten your grip or whatever. And I think it's that loss of ego which petrifies people in general, and me in particular. And so if you could talk a little bit about that.
A big misconception that we have is that we're in control of anything. We are witnessing divinity unfold in every moment, and that's really what's happening. Once we shift our perception and we can align with that divinity, then everything starts to happen how we, in line with our vibration. If we can align our vibration with divinity, we can experience divinity in our reality. But any time we're out of frequency with the divinity, then we're experiencing another perception. But the truth, the hard truth of existence, is divinity in every moment. So that's where my first book comes from. I'm perfect, and so are you. It's like one of the biggest lies we've been fed all along is nothing's perfect, and if you say you're God, it's blasphemy. Those are the two biggest lies that has been a direct attack on humanity for so long. That's been creating a box, and we've been doing it to ourselves because we've just been repeating words, that our parents say, nothing's perfect. Okay, we grow up, nothing's perfect. But reality, everything is perfect. This is the reality of it. Now, for a stressful situation, like I don't know, just recently, like going into each ceremony, I always wonder. Even running ceremonies now, I work with San Pedro too. So San Pedro is a cactus. And we just had a private retreat over this last weekend. We had a couple come, and they're about to get married in a few months, and they come out here to connect in that way,
Sure.
So part of what we offer here is showing people how to make the medicine with San Pedro. And down in South America, it's common for the participants to be involved in making of the medicine. With San Pedro, not with ayahuasca. That's a different story. But with San
Uh-huh.
Pedro, we invite people out the day before ceremony to come out and help me cook, and they come out and we were harvesting the medicine in my greenhouse. I was singing a song, and I look over, and the husband, his eyes are black and white. There's no color in his eyes anymore, and he starts sliding down on a chair and passing out. And he had a full on vision when I was harvesting the medicine. In that moment, like I have to go in and check in, like with my higher self or my guides or source or whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
and really trust that this is part of the process, because
Yeah.
everything's divinity.
Sure.
But it changed his mindset, and the rest of the retreat was way different. There was a blockage, and um I guess he didn't understand. He had done ayahuasca before, and he's probably going to be listening to this. If he's not listening to it now, he probably will be listening to it. But he come into it with and putting San Pedro in some type of box or perception, and San Pedro showed real quick that, hey, I'm not contained in that cactus. I am in the ether, and that's I think that's what ayahuasca is showing you right now. Like
Yeah.
ayahuasca is not contained in that bottle. She is the ether.
Gotcha.
She's she's too powerful to be contained in a small glass jar or bottle or whatever
Uh,
container that it comes
yeah.
in. It's just
Yeah, that's
it's
for us, not for her.
no, that's for us to try to
Yeah.
compartmentalize it and understand it.
I see.
As you go on, you start to understand that it's really the universe. These
Gotcha.
medicines really represent a consciousness that is envelops all of us. But
Well, Drew, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
that would be stressful for me. Like
Yeah.
personally as Drew, these people come out here, they trust you with their, they're trusting with their lives, and you're
Don't
taking
die.
them through.
Don't die. Please don't die.
You're taking them through a portal, and it's very serious. And
Yeah.
I think this gentleman maybe didn't understand exactly how serious it was, but he needed that moment. And him and his wife both had an experience where they were consciously awake on San Pedro in the ceremony, but had an experience of oneness. They
Wow.
they recognized their breath was connected to the wind, and that only spiraled into another understanding for him.
That's beautiful.
And I think the difference with San Pedro and ayahuasca will show you a vision, and people come out of that, and it has validity, but it doesn't have complete validity. The San Pedro is very subtle, so you don't have grandiose visions or anything, but you kind of slide without feeling your feet sinking into the sand. You slide into this other vibration unknowingly and have a oneness moment while conscious. And then validity is a lot more. It hit me actually in this last ceremony, the difference between ayahuasca and San Pedro in that sense, because it's why what message the San Pedro gives is so much different than ayahuasca. It gives you something to hold on to, that you were very conscious and not very inebriated, and felt that oneness moment. And that way you can carry it on and really expand on it after the ceremony.
You brought up a really good point, and I like to talk to you about this. Is you talk about your sense of responsibility. I mean, this is you're in charge of the ceremony. These people have entrusted you. You are the leader. You are the shaman. You are you're going to take care of these good people. You're going to show them the ceremony. You're going to participate with them. You're going to prepare them. So, can you talk about the role of you during an ayahuasca ceremony? What's going through your mind as you are with these people? How do you handle this? I'm not asking for specifics, or the process, but I mean, in your mind, how are you assisting them? What is your role?
It's better described as a channel.
Okay.
If people are familiar with channeling, a lot of my audience is. So it's more like that, like when you go in, it's not about I'm not in charge of the ceremony. I'm
Okay.
not I carry the medicine, and
Actually, Drew,
um
let me interrupt you, but that's important. This is what I'm saying is, like, I wouldn't carry the medicine. I'm not qualified to carry the medicine. There's a reason that you have, there's a preparation, a process that you've gone through, years of experience, this sort of thing. There's a role. That's what I'm saying, is that you are the
I've
channel. That's what I'm saying.
I've flipped my mind way past reality so many times that I've been to that space, and I've been
Yeah.
past it. I've
Yeah.
been I've been to a total disassociation of Drew, and I've melded in with the universe more than once. So, and I've come back to Drew, and I'm able to, every time I've come back, I've been able to bring a little bit more of that back and integrate that with Drew's process. So over time, I've come to the understanding that these ceremonies are not run by me. So when I go in, I look at myself more as an instrument, like a musical instrument that messages intuitively, and sometimes not intuitively. Sometimes I get verbal messages or cues from people that in the ceremony that they need a flute, or they need a certain song, or they need a fast tempo song right now because they need to get over a hump, or or they just purged and they're scared, so they need a soft flute to bring them, and I will get intuitive messages throughout the night, but I just give up control, basically, like a channel,
I see.
like a person that channels. And it's been a process. I went through the whole thing of trying to run the ceremony, and um, there's a result, but it's not like it is now, where I really feel that I've I figured out the ceremony and figured out how to deliver the best results possible with where I'm at right now. So
Mhm.
I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. What I was really trying to get at was this. For people who don't know about ayahuasca or San Pedro, this is not, you go down to your corner market and have a shot of it. And this is, you sit on your back porch and stare at the stars. This is a process. This is a holy ceremony. There's a way to do this. And so there's a reason that you need to be there, meaning the person, and what you've had to do to kind of prepare yourself. There's also a reason for that person who is the channel and the medicine carrier, this sort of thing. So that's all I was trying to say, is that, it's not like I carry a bag of medicine and I'm going to go on my back porch. No, this is a serious, serious thing.
It is, and to answer your question, you can, with the internet age right now, all these medicines you can order on Google and get them. You can
Yeah.
get peyote, you get ayahuasca, anybody can. You can take the medicine, but you're not going to get the same results, and it you're messing with a technology that's been agreed upon by 8,000 years. Some of these medicines 22,000 years, and some of it goes, some of the history goes, the history bar is being pushed back for all these medicines. We're starting to figure out and find proof that ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote, mushrooms, these medicines have been, their histories are starting to get older and older and older. So these are this is not a medicine. This is not a psychedelic. This is a technology that's been agreed upon over time, and now um, there's there's been people from the beginning, like the beginning of San Pedro, some of the first people that started was serving this medicine. Now they are spirit guides. They're ascended masters that have given up their physical form and set on the other side, waiting to hear a song, waiting to hear the call from someone that they. So it's like a chain. So I describe like altars. So my ayahuasca, San Pedro, my medicine altar is there's a chain, and the link behind it is Renato, and behind him is whoever Renato's teachers, and behind that is the people that taught Renato's teachers, and they have songs that they pass on as they see people. Like Renato saw me in ceremony years, about 5 or 6 years ago now. He saw my something about me or got a message about me, and then started to uh, be friends with me, and eventually started to be my teacher. And then I graduated, and now we're just colleagues. But his altar, some of those songs are calling to spirits, and some of those songs only get passed through the lineage, and that's what people get confused about lineage. They think it's connected to DNA, and it's not like that, because in the spirit world doesn't care about DNA. you know these spirit, they want to know, what's inside, what's the driving force, what's the energy inside, and what's the wisdom or knowledge that's attached to that soul space that's operating inside that being.
Mm.
And you know I've been fast I was fast tracked. That's something that the it usually takes a long time, 10, 20 years to get some of the understandings that I have. And that's not a test for me anymore. That's a test for other people.
Yeah.
My whiteness, and my young boyish look is all part of the message of this medicine.
Mm.
And it's to really it's for other people to get past it and hear what I'm speaking about and what I preach upon, and really hear what I'm talking about, and get past the physical part. This is
Uh-huh.
my appearance, and everything is the first part of the test of my medicine work for other people.
I see. True. Who should consider completing a ceremony of ayahuasca? Who should entertain this? Is it literally for every single soul on the planet, or are there people that you would say, listen, if you're somebody who is thinking this, or you're somebody who's considering this, or you have this kind of a problem, you should consider or look into ayahuasca? Is it something like that, or is it literally for every single soul on the planet?
I think it's I think it's something that's called. I think you have to ask, you have to get really real with yourself, and it's the first test of your, because really ayahuasca is not healing you. You're healing yourself. The ayahuasca helps raise your vibration to where you can see that you can heal yourself. But the first test in that is not drinking the cup. It is stepping forward and asking for it. And you know, like for me, the seed was planted with ayahuasca in a conversation. I heard the word ayahuasca for the first time, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. Oh, what was that word you just said? Ayahuasca. Well, what is ayahuasca? And then that vine started growing with the conversation, and eventually manifested into the ceremony. But that connection with ayahuasca came long before I ever ingested it. And I think that is the real answer to your question. When the medicine calls you, it's not for everybody. Some people may be called to psilocybin. Some people may be called to they might get a call and say, hey, I know you're not into this, but my buddy's setting up, there's a peyote meeting this weekend. You have to know when the medicine's calling, and step forward. Free will's a bitch. Free will dictates a lot of what we do. It's one of the four in my book. Again, the first book. It's one of the four laws of creation that I was given, that dictates everything that we do. That doesn't change. It doesn't.
Yeah.
These are rules that never change. There's only four that dictate creation.
Yeah.
Um, Everything that you put out into the universe will be returned and magnified. No being shall interrupt the path of another being. Um, everything is free will, so nobody can be forced to do anything, and all is one and one is all. Those are the four laws that never change. Everything
Mm.
else, we make up speeding limits, we make up all these other laws, but those are the
Yeah.
four laws that never change.
Yeah.
And so
Can I ask you one more question?
sure.
Sure. As you can tell, I'm a pretty inquisitive guy. I have a lot of questions. Okay. one of the very first things you said about preparing yourself for a ceremony is to set an intention and to, think about that, pray about that, set that intention. Okay, for somebody like me that has all of these things in my mind and all of these things I want to know, like you had said at one time, you had asked for abundance. Well, I have a million things that I want to know. Is there somewhere that you could, for a friend, for a friend, for a friend, for a friend, help me narrow down where my intention should start? Or what is a foundational intention? Like if somebody has too many questions, listen, you ought to start here because this will help you a little bit. Or think about this.
Just ask the medicine to show you whatever's in your best interest in this time.
Really, and leave it that open.
Leave it. Go into it from the beginning. Anybody and everybody that's ever been to our church and done ceremony with us, one of the first things I tell them when they get here, trust and surrender is your mantra, and you're gonna use that all the way through. You're gonna keep that mantra all the way from now until into the ceremony. If you trust and surrender in yourself, trust and surrender in the medicine, trust and surrender in the divinity of the reality of the creation, that's the best way to start. Once you form a relationship with ayahuasca, then you can start asking the questions. What's our relationship to ET? When's disclosure happening? When did the world start and stop? What is the position of the Earth in the galaxy? Like, these are questions I have asked specifically, but it's after I have repaired the phone lines and talked to grandma.
That is a brilliant analogy. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
it's been a thrill to interview you. I'm glad you could come on my podcast.
It happens. It happens a lot on here, but that's what it's about. I'm not so much an interviewer. I'm just here to have a conversation, a high vibe conversation about something that people maybe don't talk about in public and that people need to hear about. It's
well,
that's what this is about.
You're a blessing to me, brother, and I thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, John, like everything that you are. And we're about out of time here. Got 2 minutes left. What's your message for humanity?
All of this stuff coming out with, the Pentagon and DOD, and they're saying, yes, you know what, we really have been studying this stuff, and they're trying to control the narrative. But what they've done is maybe they knew they were doing this, maybe they didn't. But what they've done is they've given every person on the planet an opportunity and permission to look up. Mm-hmm. When you look up, you look inside, and you finally have the permission to see whatever is there. And so I invite people to see, number one, to have the courage to look up, look inside, to observe something outside of your own paradigm. And number two, when you do see something, be honest with yourself and examine it. And that itself is the beginning of this voyage for me. The film is Alien Abduction Answers. It is in North America. It's on Amazon Prime, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, every cable video on demand, and it'll be international late this fall. You can look me up, John Yost, Yost, on Facebook or Google. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about the film. You can find me on Facebook or Twitter. And I tell you, I started off being very, very afraid. And what I've found out is there's so much more to this than my opinion, my fear, my limitations. And that is very exciting. It's exciting for me, but it's also exciting for all of us together. And I hope that you join me. Please join me.
That's awesome, brother. Stick around. We're speak right after I close out the show, John.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind.
All right. Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. John Yost, thank you for joining us, and all the blessings for your message and your work. And it's kind of it's just all up from here. So I'm just thanks for joining me and taking the time, John. And we're talking just a minute. All right, everybody. That has been another episode of the Eagles Nest podcast. Again, that documentary is Alien Abduction Answers. Like you said, it's on Amazon Prime, iTunes, and it's going to be international soon. Check it out. It's definitely starting to tap on the consciousness aspect of it. And as you all well know, this is a project and something that I've been waiting for a long time for this conversation to shift into the consciousness aspect of it. And yeah, I think that's where we're going to start to get the real answers. Check us out over at sacredjourneyswithin.com, our church's website, and home to the podcast is on there as well. All the past interviews I've done for the podcast, all the past interviews I've done on other people's shows, on Coast to Coast, on Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, Grant Cameron, Dave Scott, Ascension Sessions, all those years and years worth of interviews. Check them out, and it's interesting to go back and see how my consciousness and my perspective has grown over the years. And yeah, I just like John said, I invite you to join me in this evolutionary shift. Step out of 3D, and if it helps you out, put what if in front of in front of everything, and still until you can start taking that off, and then move forward. But if you need to put what if in front of things to process them, do that. If you need to reach out to someone that's doing hypnotherapy, QHHT, if you need people to do ceremonies, if you need people to help you meditate, if you need people, support groups, there's support groups out there for experiencers, abductees, face-to-face encounters, ship encounters. If you just need to go out and see a ship, find a C5 group in your area. Go out there and look up. The government has controlled us through our own power of manifestation for so long. Now's the time to take it back. We understand. Dr. Emoto showed us how frequency works, how water can be manipulated with positive and negative frequency. We can do the same. Turn on binaural beats and start clearing out your own chakras when you sleep. This is stuff you can do now. You can do this tonight. You can find binaural beats on YouTube, totally free. Turn them down low, and find a frequency that is to help you. This is the future, healing through frequency and vibration, and this is how you can start. It's free to us. Or go out in the sun, go out in nature. There's all types of ways that's free, and they're right there in front of our fingertips. And please, for God, if you don't have my books, go to Amazon, check them out. I'm Perfect and So Are You. My first book, and my second book, Find Your Inner Guru, answering the question. The second book is answering the question, what happens after ascension? How do you still do laundry? How do you still go to town and get cut off in traffic? How do you integrate a new understanding into a physical life? And that's what my second book aims to answer. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out, please. They're especially the first book, I got next to nothing. Just trying to get the message out there. So go take advantage of that. And yeah, check me out. I'm coming up. I'll be in Golden, Colorado coming up on July 10th. And moving forward, the only thing I got locked down for sure is I'll be at Zen Awakening. Me and Ella, we're gonna have a table booth out there selling books, T-shirts at Zen Awakening, and that is November 18th, 19th, and 20th, right up close to Orlando, Florida. So check that out. It's an ongoing festival that happens every year. Very, very led by a good friend of mine named Nico, and this will be the third year that we are making an appearance at the show. And I'll be speaking live and doing workshops and hanging out. And we always try to throw in one festival each year so we can unwind and have a little bit of fun ourselves. So if you're looking to come out, you're looking to hang out and get to know me a little personally, come and hang out with me at the Zen Awakening Festival in Orlando, November 18th, 19th, and 20th this year. You won't be disappointed. They put on a great show. There's wonderful musicians. I don't know the lineup right now, but just wonderful musicians. And yeah, there's all types of other projects in the work. And just keep your ear open. Go check out our store over at Sacred Journeys Within. Also, my wife has been hard at work designing and putting up some new merchandise for festivals, some beanies. As you know, Hawk, we got almost a 6-month-old now, so she's been designing children's clothes and infants' clothes for people of our vibration. So, thank you to the audience and everyone joining us here on Sacred over at Eagles Nest Podcast. If you're listening on Facebook right now, go over and give us a like, share, subscribe over on our YouTube channel at Eagles Nest Podcast with Drew Banky. Well, and that'll bring me to the end. I am Drew Banky, and this has been the Eagles Nest Podcast. Thanks for joining me. And join me on this coming Sunday. I'll be interviewing Dr. Christopher Macklin. So we're going to be talking, we're going to be all getting into the ETs again and probably consciousness. So it's going to be a great conversation. And yeah, again, shout out to John Yost for joining us tonight. And go check out the documentary on Amazon. And with that, I'll say namaste and thank you all for joining me.